Xander, let's get this guy in here, the host of the NFL Matchup Show. The man is going to be very busy for the next week out in Las Vegas, and that's the great Sal Paolantonio. Sal, how are you today?
Oh, we're getting ready to go to Las Vegas. I'll be embedded with those San Francisco 49ers. I'm always one of the two reporters who cover a Super Bowl team. Last year, of course, I was with the Philadelphia Eagles. Been with the Eagles 3 times, once with Andy Reid, once with Doug Peterson, once with Nick Sirianni. And those weeks are extremely memorable and very busy and a lot of hard work. When you're with a team that you haven't really covered all year long, like the Niners, it's completely different. You're learning personalities on the fly. It's even more challenging than you can imagine.
I would guess so, Sal. I guess so. I hope that wasn't your choice to pick the 49ers, but that will be an interesting week for you.
Yeah, so Pat, I always like to say prospective people who come to ESPN who are just arriving, during the year, once in a while, you get to play quarterback.
Right.
When you go to the Super Bowl and we have 160 people there, you're a left guard. That's all you are. You're just you're the left guard. You're part of the team. You show up, you do your job, you stay in your lane. It's assignment football all week long. That's what it is.
Just do your job. That's it. Do your
assignment football, as we like to say.
All right, Sal Pal, let's get going. Okay, I want to start with this. I want to look back with you on those 2 conference championship games, and then we're going to look ahead to the Super Bowl. But just get some take from you, and we'll start with the game that you were at. Okay, which was Kansas City and the absolutely formidable duo of Andy Reid and Patty Mahomes. And I guess I shouldn't neglect Steve Spagnuolo for the job he has done as defensive coordinator at Baltimore against the Ravens team that had just pounded the rock all season long. Just explain to me and everybody watching tonight, how does a team go from leading the league in rushing to running the ball 6 times from its running backs in a conference championship game?
Okie doke. What happened was that Steve Spagnuolo baited Todd Monken and Lamar Jackson into throwing the football. That was the defensive alignment that he showed them. He was very heavy in the box. He had safeties nosing down the line of scrimmage. His alignment was just designed to stop the run. And, initially they had very little success running the ball, and they gave up on it. I'm not a believer in giving up on it.
Right.
You have to impose your will at home with your best players. That's 1. 2, you didn't have Lamar Jackson on the edges when he was throwing. He was in the pocket.
Right.
He's not a pocket passer. You had him drop back to pass 82% of the time. That was the most ever in his career in a single game, highest percentage ever. And that was it. I said to one of my producers after the Chiefs were up beginning of the game, this game is over. Lamar Jackson's not built to come back. This offense is not built to come back. When Lamar Jackson is down by double digits at halftime, he is 0-5. 0-5 in his career. Double digits at halftime. 3 of those by the Kansas City Chiefs.
There you go, Sal. And you point out to me the notes you sent to me. Ravens points per game with Lamar, regular season 28.3, postseason 16. Now, there was a lot of talk, a lot of it from me, about Lamar in the postseason and the fact that he has not shown it. Well, he certainly didn't show it again last week. Just give me a quick take on Lamar Jackson and where he goes from here. Does he now have to just waste the next 18 weeks of NFL football in 2024 just to get back and try and prove it again?
Well, Pat, I'd like to be clear about this in answer to a question. In my view, Lamar was not the main problem. There were some issues with him, obviously throwing that interception in the end zone in the 4th quarter into triple coverage was a huge, huge mistake. Definitely.
Right.
They had a bad plan, and they stuck to it. At some point at halftime, John Harbaugh's got to go to Todd Monken and say, get my quarterback out of the pocket. Get him on the run. Challenge this defense with Lamar Jackson running. Going into the game, Steve Spagnuolo and his defense in Kansas City in his tenure has given up 26 touchdowns to running quarterbacks, most in the NFL during his tenure. I mean, what am I missing here?
Yeah.
It was a bad plan, and they stuck to the bad plan.
You almost,
we were taught in military training school at the Navy War College, where I took a course, that, people get so stuck on an idea that it's going to work that they get divorced from reality. Don't do that. Be adaptable. Be willing to change. If you don't, you're going to fail. You're going to fail on the battlefield. You're going to fail in the football field.
All right, Sal, you kind of answered this question, but I'm going to throw it out anyway because I want you to expound on it a little more. Head coaches wear a headset, right? Remember the old days, John Madden didn't, Tom Landry
didn't. And John Harbaugh's listening to the play.
Yes. And you mentioned halftime, but at any time during that game, Harbaugh has to see that his offensive coordinator is, and he knew it. He had to know it from game planning, like you're saying.
Yeah.
The Ravens proceeded to do last week that which they had not done all season long.
I'm not blaming this on Lamar Jackson. I'm blaming it squarely on the coaching staff. I am in agreement with you 100%. Bad plan, and they stuck to a bad plan. Absolutely.
That's just a great way of putting it. It was a bad plan, and they stuck to it, which is fascinating. Okay? Now, let's segue then to the NFC Championship game then, where, Sal, I guess – I'm going to take your phrase. Dan Campbell had a plan all season long, which was I'm Riverboat Dan. I'm going for it on 4th and 2. That's
Gambling Campbell. Campbell. Yeah, okay. That's the nickname.
Sal, just tell me this. I'm going to tell you the three things. 1, 24-7 at half. The Niners kick a field goal. Lions come right back, running the ball, which they too got away from. They're in field goal position, 4th and 2. Should he kick the field goal there to possibly go back up 3 scores?
And the overwhelming consensus in the NFL community, people like Phil Simms, others that I've heard on the radio, on Sirius XM and on TV analysis, the overwhelming consensus is you kick the field goal. Yeah. It's not even close.
Yeah.
Which we're talking about, the borough of Manhattan voting Democrat, 97%.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And then Sal, 27-24. You've totally lost the lead. You were up 24-7. Now you're down 27-24. You're presented with the same circumstance. You've got to kick that field goal. It's the NFC Championship game. You're not playing the Bears in October at Soldier Field. This is the NFC Championship game. Tie the game. Yes or no?
Yeah, the people are consistency is the hobgoblin of little minds, as we like to say. And I'm not saying that Dan Campbell has a little mind. I think consistency is the hobgoblin of small plans. So you have to manage in the big moment,
right?
As if it's a big moment, not a small moment. You're not managing a Week 8 game.
You got
it. And you don't have to worry that your team is going to buy in. They have already bought in a big way to you and your coaching style and your philosophy. That's the reason why you're in the NFC Championship game. That's the reason why you have turned things around so disproportionately to anybody that anybody's ever seen in the National Football League, because they are already bought in. So you don't have to worry about saying, all right, we've been doing one thing all the way up to this point, but I think in this situation, we should do this. And you're not going to get second guessed.
There you go. There you go. And the last one, Sal, drives me crazy. It does. And Mike Greenberg, if you watched the Get Up on Monday morning on ESPN, he was absolutely just, he was explosive about it. Was the Lions are down 34-24 late in the game. There's over a minute to go. They have 3 timeouts left. First down inside at the San Francisco 3-yard line. He runs the ball. Now, God help me. If I was a Lions fan, the TV would have been rolling out onto my street, because in doing that, he had to take a timeout there, which then committed him to an onside kick, which, as Greenberg pointed out, just doesn't work anymore. It's almost a 100% chance it's not going to work.
It was a bad idea. It was bad. But, I think I would like to flip the script. I mean, I think all of us are guilty of belaboring this point. I think Kyle Shanahan finally learned something about how to manage his offense in big games. Specifically, he's got a running back who is a hammer in Christian McCaffrey.
He sure does, Sal. He sure does.
Okay, so Christian McCaffrey in the 2 postseason games has 260 all-purpose yards, scrimmage yards, and 4 touchdowns. And in the 18 games he has played, 18 games he's played this year, he has 25 touchdowns. That's insane production. And it shows that Kyle Shanahan, who made a mistake 4 years ago when he had Garoppolo,
right,
and he made a mistake when he was the offensive coordinator under Dan Quinn in Atlanta when it was 28-3 and he didn't run the ball. I think that should be very encouraging to those people who think that he is finally getting it and may get over the hump against the Chiefs. Maybe. Right. This game, to me, in the Super Bowl, I'm getting ahead of myself, is Steve Wilkes, the defensive coordinator of the Niners,
right,
trying to outcoach Andy Reid.
Yeah, that'll be a fascinating one. Yeah, that's going to be fascinating.
As Ron Jaworski once told me, Pat, coaches in the NFL coach against coaches. They look at their tendencies. They look at their contingencies. They look at their plans B, C, and D, depending on what you throw at them. And I'm telling you right now, the way I study it and the way I look at it, Andy Reid is going to, and I said this last week and he did it last week, he's going to run Isaiah Pacheco on the edges he did it. He got Queen and he got Roquan Smith outside the numbers.
Right.
And he's going to do that against San Francisco. He's going to run right at their defensive ends. That's
going to be fascinating. I think one of those defensive ends might get benched, Chase Young. I think the Commanders stole a 3rd-round pick when they made that deal, but I'm getting ahead of myself.
Oh, you are correct. You are right.
When we get back with Sal Paolantonio, I'm going to ask Sal about analytics. I'm almost sick of the term. I just want to get Sal's take on analytics. I
love analytics. All right, let's go, Pat. We're ready. Come on,
you're a
bring
Navy
it on.
man. Okay, I get it.
I love analytics.
I'm going to ask him about that. I'm going to ask him, did the 49ers actually dodge a bullet with the 2 teams that they played in the playoffs? And then we're going to talk about Kellen Moore and a couple of Eagles notes here as we rumble into the postseason. We got to do that all next here on This Week in Pro Football, presented by Kennedy. And welcome back. This Week in Pro Football, presented by Kennedy, for the great Sal Paolantonio, my guest here, the host of the NFL Matchup Show, and a man who's going to be embedded with the hated San Francisco 49ers. That's just me talking now. I mean, a lot of people love the 49ers. I don't. But I'm sure I'll probably like him a lot more when Sal's done with him. But we'll see about that. But Sal, one word about that. The Niners faced the Green Bay Packers in their initial playoff game, and they faced the Detroit Lions. 2 very young teams and not a lot of playoff pedigree on either team in terms of their current roster. Both had the Niners on the ropes. You think San Francisco, did they dodge a big bullet there, and did they learn from it, in your opinion?
I do. I do think they learned from it. I think you can definitely see that Kyle Shanahan is focusing on Christian McCaffrey, and you can definitely see that Brock Purdy is developing his pedigree in the postseason. He has had 2 second halves, one against the Packers and one against the Lions, and he has had 8 scoring drives out of 10 possible drives in those second halves, 80%. So, that's pretty phenomenal. That's outrageously good. So don't knock Brock. That's my That's my saying for Super Bowl 58. Don't knock Brock. He represents 74% of the Niners offense in the postseason. Now, 4 years ago, when they went to the Super Bowl against the Kansas City Chiefs, Jimmy Garoppolo represented 29% versus 74%. So that's a significant upgrade.
I know.
It is a significant upgrade at the quarterback position. The problem is Steve Spagnuolo now in his 5th Super Bowl as a defensive coordinator. He's only lost 1. And he is diabolically good at making you do what you don't want to do. See, this is the thing that that's the value of a defensive coordinator. Is putting in a plan and players in a position to make the quarterback do what he does not want to do. Excellent. And the job of the quarterback is to simply get out of the bad plays, the bad situation that the defensive coordinator has put. That's what Peyton Manning did. That's what Tom Brady did. That's what Montana, Aikman, Bradshaw, all the greats have done. Mahomes is perhaps the greatest.
He might be, Sal. But I tell you, this kid Purdy, and I tell you, as I said, I'm no Niners fan, but this kid's got that Montana. I am not saying he's Joe Montana. I'm just saying he's got that sixth sense about him in the pocket. You can see it, and it's only going to get more developed.
Well, the other thing, too, is he knows when to run. This is different, though. Anzalone, the linebacker, was 20 yards off the line of scrimmage spying Brock Purdy, Pat. He was too far off the line of scrimmage. And as we saw against the Ravens, they had a double stack spy against Lamar Jackson, which forced him to pass the football, to stay in the pocket. He saw that double stack spy, and he didn't get out of it. Purdy will be spotted. He will.
All right. Maybe the analytics told Angeloni to wait to be 20 yards away from the line of scrimmage. Just give me your thoughts on this, Sal. It's a term that has come. It's not. I'm not saying it's dominating pro football, but it's showing up way too much. Give me your overall thoughts on it. This reliance by coaching staffs on statistical history and tendencies. Do you think it's been a boon for the game, or do you think perhaps it's a little bit of a drag on a coach making decisions based on what's going on right in front of his face?
Listen, and it doesn't matter what it is, in any walk of life, you take analytics, you take all the information that is given by your subordinates, and you give it to the CEO, and the CEO at the end has to make a decision whether it works or not. The reliance on analytics, I think, is working on 4th down for the most part. It didn't work with Detroit. He over-relied on it. In the end, whoever the CEO is, whoever the decision maker is, whoever the head coach or the quarterback on the field must rely on what they see and then instinctually react to it.
Yeah.
And if you take the analytics, that's all fine and well and good, but you can't be a slave to one aspect of any. Pat, when you were a CFO, did you adhere to one specific philosophy or strategy? No, you took in a whole lot of things. You crunched the numbers,
right,
and then you saw what the trends were, and then you made decisions based on your experience and the information given to you. So I like analytics. I do, but I don't like the over-reliance on it. I like the fact that you have coaching staffs that are now like 24 and 25. You know, you have a large number of people giving you information. They have those chips that they use to give information. There's a lot of stuff. The next gen stats do work. Like, for instance, the next gen stats shows that the Niners are not very good at covering tight ends over the season. They were 29th in the league. And what happened? Sam Laporta went off on them.
Yeah.
He had one bad drop.
Yeah.
So if you put that in there, ipso facto, to say you're saying, all right,
I understand you.
Travis Kelce, that's your guy in this game.
Yeah. But you know what, Sal? I go back in, Super Bowl 48, the Seattle Seahawks were inside. They'd gotten down to the 2-yard line of the Patriots and were about to win that game.
That's the best example.
And the Patriots had 3 timeouts, Sal. But I'm not going to give you the example you're thinking of, I don't think.
No, Belichick didn't call timeout.
Exactly. Analytics would scream at Belichick to call a timeout there. Instead, he said, I was looking at their sideline, and they seemed a little confused. So I figured I'd just let it play out. That is the best example of a coach looking at the circumstance right there and making a decision as opposed to, analytics. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a very good one. Of course, the Seahawks conspired to help Belichick.
I don't deny that. They bailed him out. You're right.
They bailed him out for sure.
Yeah.
But, and the much maligned Matt Patricia was the one who came up with the defensive call that allowed Malcolm Butler to jump the route and intercept Russell Wilson and give Tom Brady a Super Bowl title.
I know. All right, Sal, you only have 3 minutes left here. I could talk to you all night long. 3 minutes left. Give me your quick take. Last week, you had some excellent opinions on the Eagles and their offensive coordinator hire. The Eagles end up with Kellen Moore, who was in the same job last year with the Los Angeles Chargers. Moore now comes east with Philadelphia. Give me your take on that.
Well, I advocated for something bold like Cliff Kingsbury, but he's a very polarizing figure, obviously, as you saw from the commentary that my comments generated.
That's true.
Kellen Moore, what he did with Dak Prescott a couple of years ago when he let him loose and he threw for over 4,000 yards was pretty impressive for sure. And they decided they wanted to run the ball and be a little bit more conservative. And where did it get them? Right back where they were. So let's see what Kellen Moore is going to come in here. He likes to throw the ball downfield. He likes to be aggressive. I was interested to see what Devontae Smith said on Kay Adams' podcast recently. You can look it up on YouTube, in which he said, just let us do our thing, which suggests we should see a lot more of those kinds of passes that are going to be, catered to for A.J. Brown, crossing routes, deep in digs, those kinds of things. For Devontae Smith, let him win those one-on-one matchups. His hands are so reliable. When the ball is in the area, he beats the defender to the ball all the time. Create one-on-one matchups. Allow Dallas Goedert to work underneath and clear things out. I mean, there's talent, but I'm going to go back to what I said last week, Pat. If you're not going to have Jason Kelce, that's a big missing piece. Right. It is a huge missing piece on this team. He was an extra coach on the field, and in my view, one of the best centers of all time and going to the Hall of Fame. That's a big missing piece.
That is the big. You're right about that, and then there's other pieces on that offensive line, like Lane Johnson not getting any younger either.
But Kelce called the protection. Yeah. Kelce was the guy. He was the godfather, right? Lane Johnson. When you have a middle linebacker or a center or a safety like Dawkins, you guys in the middle of the field, they see the whole field. They know what's going on back and front. It's like a catcher,
right? It's
like Tim McCarver or Yogi Berra or Johnny Bench. So there's a reason why catchers become great managers in baseball. Yeah. And there's a reason why Jason Kelce, in my view, is the most valuable Eagle of this generation.
How about that? Well done.
Other than Nick Foles, of course.
All right, Sal Pal. I know you are on your way. When are you actually heading out west?
Pat, that's privileged, classified information. So I'm just going to say I'm getting ready to go soon, Pat. I'm getting ready to go soon, and maybe we'll see you after the Super Bowl. But we'll be in touch. Thanks for a great season on This Week in Pro Football. Love doing the show, and it's no surprise to the audience of This Week in Pro Football that Pat Callahan would be skeptical of analytics. The slogan is "Get off my lawn." That is about as old school as you can get.
I guess so.
Thanks for a great season, Pat.
All right, Sal. Thank you. Thank you very much for all the time you took this season. There were great conversations, and I appreciate it very much. And thanks for all the information you provided to me. And we'll look for your stuff with the hated 49ers all next week. And we'll watch the matchup show. Thanks again, Sal. All right. Sal Paolantonio joining me there. He didn't answer me when I asked him if he had. No, he said he just took orders. So I assume he didn't ask to be embedded with the 49ers. I'd rather go with the Chiefs. But okay, when we get back, Sean Green is going to join me. We're going to talk about those two conference championship games again. And then we'll look at some early Super Bowl.